The sound of the car horn pierced my soul before it even came through the window. When I saw my own son, standing there next to that moving truck, with papers in his hand and 3 men in uniform, I knew. I tasted the bitter flavor of betrayal mixed with the coffee that was still warm in my cup. My name is Richard Miller, 75 years old as of last March, born and raised in Millfield, a small town in rural Pennsylvania. I'm a retired carpenter, going on 10 years now, but I never stopped working with my hands. This house where I've lived since I married my late wife Elaine was built brick by brick with these calloused hands you see before you. Today I live alone, since my sweetheart went to meet the Lord 5 years ago. I have 2 children, Robert, who is the protagonist of this story I'm about to tell you, and Margaret, who lives in Philadelphia and rarely visits. My whole life I worked hard to give the best to my children. For over 40 years I was up before dawn at the wood shop. I weathered the recession, survived bankruptcy in the 90s, built everything back up from scratch. When Robert wanted to go to college, I sold my Chevy pickup and started taking the bus to pay for his tuition. When Margaret needed expensive dental work, I took weekend jobs. I never regretted any of it. A father does what's necessary for his children, right? At least that's what I believed until that Sunday morning that changed everything. Before continuing this story, I'd like to thank the Grandpa's Voice channel for giving me the opportunity to share my story. It's important for other seniors to know they're not alone, and I ask you who are watching, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, comment where you're watching from and what time it is there. Every day there's a new story here, and who knows, maybe the next one will help you or someone you know. But let's get back to that fateful morning. The coffee was still steaming in my cup when the horn honked 3 times. It was just the beginning of a day that would test everything I believed about family, blood and loyalty. I was born on a small farm in Green Valley, a place so tiny it barely showed up on maps, about 20 miles from Millfield. My father, Anthony, was a farmer, grew a bit of everything, corn, beans, potatoes. My mother, Grace, took care of the house, the chickens, and us 5 children. I was the middle child. Life in the country was hard, but honest. We woke up with the roosters crow and went to sleep when our bodies couldn't take the exhaustion anymore. I only went to school through 4th grade, couldn't do more than that, had to help on the farm. But from a young age, I had a gift with wood. I liked to take scraps left over when my father made repairs and transform them into small toys, stools, little boxes. At 14, I went to work as an apprentice at the only carpentry shop in the region, owned by old Mr. Schmidt, a gruff German man, but one who knew the craft like nobody else. "Boy," he would say with that thick accent, "wood isn't just material, it's alive. It has grain, knots, personality. You have to respect it." And that's how I learned, respecting every piece of wood that passed through my hands. Every piece of furniture I made took a little piece of me with it. By 22, I was already a master carpenter and decided to move to Millfield, which was growing at the time and needed people who knew the trade. I started working at Mr. Arnold's woodshop, but soon saved up enough money to open my own business, Miller's Custom Woodworking. It was small, just a little workshop in the back of a rented lot, but it was mine. It was during this time that I met Elaine. Good Lord, what a beautiful woman. She worked at the town pharmacy, had hair as dark as night, and a smile that lit up the room. Our first meeting was when I went to buy medicine for back pain. Working hunched over all day takes its toll. She helped me with such kindness that I'd never experienced before. 3 months later we were dating, and a year after that we were married in the town's little church. Elaine, or Ellie as I called her, was my safe harbor. While I worked at the shop, she took care of our home with a touch you wouldn't believe. Our first son, Robert, was born in 1975, 2 years after we got married. Margaret came along 4 years later. Life wasn't easy, but we were happy. We had health, work, and love. Our dream was to own our home. We were renting a simple 2-story near downtown. Every month, no matter how tight things were, we'd set aside a little money for our house savings. In 1983, we finally bought a plot of land. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. And there, with my own hands, I began building our house on weekends and holidays. It took almost 3 years to finish. Each brick laid was a victory. Ellie would come help when she could, bring me coffee, hold the ladder. Sometimes neighbors would lend a hand. Robert, still small, would carry tools for me, so proud. "Dad, when I grow up, I want to build houses just like you," he'd say. That filled my chest with pride. In 1986, we finally moved in. It wasn't 100% finished, still needed some finishing touches, but it was livable. 3 bedrooms, living room, kitchen, a backyard where Ellie planted her rose bushes. It was simple, but it was our sweat materialized in the form of a home. The carpentry business prospered in the years that followed. I gained a reputation in the region for making sturdy, beautiful furniture. I worked from sunup to sundown, but it was worth it to see Ellie's joy when I could bring her a gift, or when we could buy first-rate school supplies for the kids. Robert was always smart, got good grades in school. When he turned 17, he came with dreams of going to college in Pittsburgh, civil engineering. "Dad, I want to build skyscrapers. I want to do big things," he said. The cost was absurd for our budget, but how could I say no? I sold my '78 Chevy. I started working overtime. I even took out some loans. Ellie started baking cakes to sell to help out, all to see our son become a professional. Margaret was simpler, more like me. She wanted to do a vocational nursing program and continued living with us, but she needed expensive orthodontic treatment as a teenager. Again, we tightened our belts, but we made it work. I never let anything be lacking at home. When inflation ate away at our money in the 80s and 90s, I worked double shifts. When the crisis came and I almost closed the carpentry shop in 1999, I sold my motorcycle to keep the business afloat. Ellie, always by my side, saving where she could, making miracles with what we had. Robert graduated, got a good job with a construction company in Pittsburgh, then opened his own office. He married Denise, a pretty woman, but a bit stuck up for my taste. I never said anything, of course. A father doesn't interfere with his child's choices. They had 2 children, my grandkids, Gabriel and Julie, who are now 14 and 12. Over time, I started noticing changes in Robert. Visits became more rare. When he did come, he spent more time on his cell phone than talking with us. Denise barely disguised her discomfort at being in our simple home. Once I overheard her complaining about the smell of homemade food that Ellie had prepared especially for them. "Overbearing," she said. I swallowed hard, but didn't mention it to Ellie to avoid hurting her. When Ellie got sick in 2018, an aggressive cancer that took her in just 8 months, Robert showed up at the hospital twice. Twice in 8 months. He was too busy with important projects, he said. It was Margaret who dropped everything in Philadelphia and came to take care of her mother in those last months. After Ellie passed, I stayed alone in the house. Margaret wanted me to come live with her, but I refused. "This house has your mother's memories in every corner," I explained. "I can't leave that behind." That's when I noticed the first signs of what was to come. Robert started showing up more often, always with some paper for me to sign. Funeral plans, life insurance, retirement documents. "Let me handle this, Dad. You're too old to worry about paperwork." I signed confidently. After all, he was my son, my own flesh and blood. What harm could there be? Oh, if I had only known what those helpful visits really meant. After Ellie was gone, I confess I felt a bit lost. 52 years of marriage, can you imagine? It's like losing half of yourself. The nights were the worst. I'd lie in that double bed and feel the emptiness on her side. Sometimes in the middle of the night, I'd reach out my arm, seeking the warmth of her body, only to remember seconds later that she was no longer there. I began to keep busy as best I could. Even retired, I set up a small workshop in the backyard where I did small carpentry jobs. Nothing big, you understand. Some boxes, picture frames, wooden toys for my grandchildren and for the neighborhood kids. It wasn't about the money. Thank God my pension, combined with Ellie's, was enough to live with dignity. It was more about keeping my mind occupied, my hands working. Mrs. Wilson, my neighbor on the right, was an angel during this period. A widow, too, she would always show up with a cake, a soup, or company for coffee. "Mr. Miller, I made banana bread today. Came to bring you a piece to try." It was her way of looking after me without seeming intrusive. On the other side lived Mr. Johnson and his wife, Mrs. Betty. Good people, too. He would always come ask for my help when he needed to fix something around the house. "Rich," he called me that, "take a look at this door that's warping." And off I'd go with my toolbox, happy to be useful. Things began to change about 8 months ago when Robert showed up on a Wednesday, which was rare. Normally he only came on the last Sunday of the month, when he came at all, but this time it was a Wednesday. I remember because I had just finished watching the noon news. "Dad, we need to talk," he said, with that face I knew well, the same one he made as a child when he'd broken something in the house. We sat on the porch. He took out a brown envelope from his suit jacket. Always in a suit, even on a hot day like that one. "Appearance is everything in my business," he used to say. "Dad, you're 75 now, living alone in this big house. Don't you think it's time to consider moving to a smaller place, easier to maintain?" That caught me by surprise. Move where? There are some very good senior communities in Pittsburgh. Small apartments, everything adapted. 24-hour nurses. "But son, I don't need a nurse. I'm perfectly fine, thank God. I cook my own food, take care of my house. For now, Dad. But what if you fall? What if you get sick in the middle of the night? Who's going to help?" The conversation continued in that vein. Him insisting that I was no longer able to live alone, me assuring him that I was just fine. Thank you very much. In the end, he put the envelope away without showing what was inside and left, somewhat annoyed. 2 weeks later he returned, this time with Denise and the grandkids. I thought it strange. It had been over a year since Denise had set foot in my house. The grandkids were huge. Gabriel almost my height already. Julie, a young lady. "Grandpa, we're going to travel abroad for vacation," Gabriel announced excitedly. "We're going to Disney World." "That's great, son," I replied, while noticing Robert and Denise exchanging odd glances. During coffee, Robert returned to the subject. "Dad, I've been thinking, why don't you sell this house? It must be worth good money now. The neighborhood has appreciated a lot." "Sell and go where?" "To that senior community I told you about, or there's Golden Sunset Acres. Heard of it? It's a very well-regarded institution." "Golden Sunset Acres, that nursing home near the hospital?" "It's not a nursing home, Dad. It's a retirement community." I felt my blood boil. Retirement community or nursing home? It's the same thing. "It's a place for old people that families don't want at home anymore," Denise intervened. "Mr. Miller, it's nothing like that. It's a place with all the structure you need at your age." "What age?" "I'm 75, not 100. My father lived to 92, lucid and active." Robert sighed. "Dad, be reasonable. You can't stay here forever." "Why not?" "The house is mine. Built it with my own hands. I'll stay here till the end, just like your mother did." Julie, who had been quiet until then, approached me. "Grandpa, but at Golden Sunset Acres there are other elderly people for you to make friends with." I looked at her, innocent child, just repeating what she heard her parents say. "My flower, Grandpa already has friends here. Mrs. Wilson, Mr. Johnson, the people from church." The atmosphere got tense. They left earlier than planned. I noticed that Robert accidentally left some brochures about Golden Sunset Acres on the kitchen table. I threw them in the trash as soon as I closed the door. The visits intensified in the following months. Robert came almost every week now, always with some document, some proposal, some conversation about planning for the future. Once he brought a real estate agent without telling me. The man was measuring my house, looking at everything, taking notes while I seethed with anger. "Robert, who authorized this man to come into my house?" "Dad, it's just an assessment to know how much the property is worth. It doesn't cost anything." Yes, it does. It cost me my peace. I already said I'm not selling." The agent, embarrassed, quickly said goodbye. Robert was furious. It was the first time I saw my son raise his voice to me. "You're too stubborn. Don't you see we're concerned, that we only want what's best for you?" "What's best for me or the value of this house?" He left, slamming the door. I was devastated. Never imagined having this kind of argument with my own son. The next day, I told Mrs. Wilson what had happened. She shook her head, concerned. "Mr. Miller, have you signed anything for your son lately?" "Some papers about retirement, about the funeral plan." "Did you read these papers?" I confess I was embarrassed. "Not very well. You know how it is. My eyesight isn't what it used to be, and I trust my son." She squeezed my hand. "Be careful, Mr. Miller. I don't mean any harm, but we see all sorts of things these days." Those words left me uneasy. That night, I couldn't sleep well. I kept thinking about Robert's insistence, the documents, the real estate agent. Something didn't smell right. I decided to do something I'd never done before. I went into the room that had been Robert's as a teenager, now my makeshift office, and rummaged through the drawers where I kept documents. I found copies of some papers I had signed in recent months. With the help of a magnifying glass, I began to read. My God in heaven. One of the documents was a power of attorney, giving Robert full authority to sell my house. Another was a contract with Golden Sunset Acres, with 3 months paid in advance. I felt my legs weaken. I sat in the chair, heart racing. How could I have been so naive? I called my old friend Steve right away. Didn't matter that it was almost midnight. He had been a clerk at the county records office before retiring and understood these things. "Rich, is the signature on these papers really yours?" "More or less, it looks like it, but something's off. I'll come by early tomorrow to take a look." Steve confirmed what I already suspected. Some signatures were genuinely mine on legitimate documents. Others, however, seemed forged. "Someone took your real signature and practiced until they could imitate it," he explained. I was devastated. My own son had forged my signature. For what? To get me out of my house, stick me in a nursing home, and sell the property. I cried like a child that night. Ellie, if she were alive, wouldn't believe it. Our Robert, for whom we had sacrificed so much, planning something like this against his own father. I didn't have much time to grieve. The following Sunday, 3 days after this discovery, around 9 in the morning, I heard an insistent horn in front of the house. I went out to see what it was and got the shock of my life. A moving truck parked, Robert beside it with papers in hand. 3 uniformed men waiting for instructions. "What's this about, Robert?" He wouldn't even look me in the eye. "Dad, the time has come. Golden Sunset Acres is expecting you. I've already packed your main things in a suitcase." "What are you talking about? I'm not going anywhere." "Yes, you are. The house has already been sold. The new owner takes possession on Monday." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "Sold? What do you mean sold? The house is mine." "Not anymore. You signed the power of attorney. I took care of everything." "I didn't sign anything like that. You forged my signature." He shrugged with a coldness that cut me to the core. "Prove it." At that moment, the men began entering my house. I tried to stop them, but one pushed me aside with his arm. "Please, sir, we're just doing our job." "Get out of my house," I shouted desperately. Robert grabbed my arm. "Dad, don't make this more difficult. Golden Sunset Acres is a great place. I already paid 3 months in advance." "With what money?" "The money from the sale. It's best for everyone. You'll have 24-hour assistance and I won't have to worry." "Worry? You've never worried. Since your mother died, you've barely shown up here." The men were already removing furniture from the house. My dining table, where so many family meals had taken place. The couch where I watched my shows. The dresser I had made for Ellie on our 30th anniversary. I began to cry without caring. "Son, for the love of God, don't do this to me." "Stop the drama, old man," he replied, irritated. "Try to understand. You can't stay here alone anymore." The neighbors began to come out of their houses, attracted by the commotion. Mrs. Wilson came running. "What's happening, Mr. Miller?" This person I used to call my son is evicting me from my own house." Robert assumed a professional tone, as if explaining a project to a client. "Ma'am, my father is 75 years old. He's not able to live alone. We're just arranging his move to an appropriate retirement community." "He seems perfectly fine to me," Mrs. Wilson shot back. "And from what I understand, he doesn't want to go to any retirement community." "With all due respect, ma'am, this is a family matter." The men continued removing the furniture, now tossing some onto the sidewalk carelessly. My favorite armchair, where I read the newspaper every morning. The nightstand that Ellie loved so much, all being treated like garbage. Mrs. Wilson took her cell phone from her purse. "I'm recording all of this, you monster." Robert laughed with an arrogance I'd never seen in him before. Go ahead and record. He's my father. I'll do what I want." Other neighbors also began to record. Mr. Johnson, Mrs. Betty, even young Jimmy from the bakery who was passing by. "Mr. Robert," Johnson said, "what you're doing is a crime. I was a police officer before retiring. Elder abuse can land you in jail." "And who's going to prove it?" Robert challenged. "He signed all the documents. I have everything in order." I saw my things on the sidewalk. Family photographs, Ellie's embroidery, the wall clock that played a little tune every hour. My entire life thrown into the street. Something broke inside me. I fell to my knees on the sidewalk, sobbing. 50 years in this house. 50 years. Robert seemed impatient. "Dad, the car that's going to take you to Golden Sunset Acres arrives in an hour. Get what you want to take. There's not much space there." At that moment, I was defeated, humiliated, betrayed by my own flesh and blood. I saw no way out. But then, Mrs. Wilson did something that would change everything. "Mr. Miller, would you excuse me for a minute?" She left, furiously typing on her cell phone. 10 minutes later, she returned. "There. I posted the video on Facebook, tagged the local TV station, the neighborhood group, everything. This outrage is going to become known." "It won't do any good," I murmured, discouraged. "Just wait and see," she smiled confidently. And that's when everything began to turn around. It didn't even take 15 minutes for Robert's cell phone to start ringing non-stop. He would answer, turn red, hang up, answer again, run his hand through his hair nervously, and hang up again. "Who's calling so much, son?" I asked with a calmness that even I didn't know where it came from. He didn't respond, but I soon found out. Mrs. Wilson approached, showing her phone. "Mr. Miller, the video already has more than 3,000 views and climbing. People are sharing like crazy." It was true. The video she had posted showing Robert ordering my things thrown onto the sidewalk, me crying, him saying, "Record all you want, he's my father. I'll do what I want." It was going viral. The comments were full of indignation. "What an outrage! What a horrible son! Someone call the police." Mr. Johnson came over. "I already called Sergeant Peterson, my old colleague from the force. He's on his way with a patrol car." Robert's face lost its color. "This is ridiculous. I have the documents. Everything is legal." "Legal?" I asked, finding strength I don't know where from. "Forging your own father's signature is legal now. Evicting an elderly person from the house he built himself is legal?" Robert lowered his voice, trying to pull me away from the neighbors. "Dad, don't make things up. You signed everything." "I signed nothing, and I have a witness who can prove that some signatures are fake." "What witness?" "Steve, former clerk at the county records office. He examined the documents yesterday." I saw the panic in his eyes. For the first time, the big engineer, the businessman, was losing control of the situation. Just then, a neighbor I barely knew, I think she had moved in recently, approached, out of breath. "Mr. Miller, I'm Laura, a retired lawyer. I live on the next street. I saw the video in the neighborhood group and came running. Do you have the documents that your son claims you signed?" "I have copies, yes, inside the house." "Excellent. Don't let anyone enter your house and don't sign anything else." In less than an hour, my street was in an uproar. Besides the neighbors, there were people I'd never seen in my life. A woman with a microphone and a man with a camera arrived. They were from the local TV station. 2 more police cars parked, and the video, according to Mrs. Wilson, had already passed 100,000 views. "My God in heaven," I murmured. "Never thought I'd become news." Robert tried to slip away quietly, but Sergeant Peterson approached him. "Are you Mr. Miller's son?" "I am, but this is a misunderstanding. I have all the documents." "Then let's clarify this at the station. We need to hear from all parties." That's when I saw a large car parking. A man in a suit got out. I recognized him immediately. It was Mr. Davidson from the County Elder Affairs Council. I had seen him a few times on local TV talking about elder rights. "Mr. Miller," he said, shaking my hand. "I'm Thomas Davidson from the Elder Affairs Council. An acquaintance saw the video on social media and alerted me. I came personally to check on the situation. I explained everything, showing him the copies of the documents, telling him about the forged signatures. Mr. Davidson took notes, shaking his head. "This is very serious. Document forgery, attempted misappropriation, elder abuse. Your son could face serious criminal consequences." At that moment, another car arrived. It was a van from Channel 7 News. My God, the thing had really gotten big. A reporter approached with a microphone. "Mr. Miller, we'd like to hear your version of events for the evening news." Before I could answer, the detective who had just arrived intervened. "Please, let's respect the moment. Mr. Miller will give a formal statement, and afterward, if he wishes, he can speak with the press." In the confusion, I saw that the movers had stopped removing my furniture and were talking in low voices, appearing embarrassed. Robert was leaning against the police car talking on the phone, gesturing nervously. The detective approached me. "Mr. Miller, I need to ask some questions. Whose name is on the house?" "Mine, of course. I have the deed in safekeeping." I asked Mrs. Wilson to get the folder with my important documents that I kept under my mattress, an old habit that Ellie always complained about. I handed the deed to the detective. "Here it is. The house has been mine since 1986. The detective examined the document. "And did you sign any power of attorney authorizing your son to sell the property?" "No, never. He forged my signature." Robert, who had been brought nearby by the officer, protested. "He did sign it, yes, he did sign it." The detective gave him a hard look. "We have ways to verify if a signature is forged, Mr. Robert." At that moment, Mr. Davidson intervened. "Detective, I'd like to inform you that I've already contacted the special court. Given the urgent nature of the situation, involving elder vulnerability, the duty judge will issue a restraining order, prohibiting any transaction with this property until the case is clarified." Robert seemed increasingly desperate. "This is absurd. I just wanted what was best for my father." "Best?" Mrs. Wilson couldn't contain herself. "Throwing his things in the street, evicting him from his own house. What kind of son does that?" The Channel 7 reporter managed to get closer. "Mr. Robert, would you like to comment on the accusations?" He covered his face with his hands, trying to escape the cameras. Too late. His face was already being broadcast across the entire state. Amidst the confusion, I heard a car parking abruptly. It was a taxi, and out of it jumped my daughter Margaret with a look of horror on her face. "Dad, my God, Dad!" She ran and hugged me, crying. "I saw the video on Facebook." "How could Robert do this? How?" "How, daughter?" was all I managed to say, hugging her tightly. The detective asked everyone to calm down. "Let's organize this first. The movers need to return all the furniture inside the house, exactly as it was. Then we'll go to the station to file a formal police report." The movers, relieved to have an excuse to withdraw from that situation, began putting the furniture back. One of them even quietly apologized to me. "We didn't know, Mr. Miller. We were just doing our job. Margaret wouldn't let go of me. Dad, I'm going to stay with you. I'll take a leave from work. I'm not leaving you alone after this." Robert was taken to the station to give his statement. Before entering the patrol car, he cast a look at me. Not of anger or defiance, but something that almost seemed like fear, regret. I can't say. At the station, everything was recorded in detail. The detective informed me that an investigation would be opened for document forgery, attempted fraud, and elder abuse. Robert was released after his statement, but with the warning that he should not approach me or my house until further notice. When we returned home, me, Margaret, and Mrs. Wilson, who hadn't left my side, we found everything more or less in place. The movers had done their best to reorganize the furniture. I sat in my armchair, physically and emotionally exhausted. I never imagined I'd go through something like this in my life. Mrs. Wilson brought me tea. "Drink this, Mr. Miller. It will calm your nerves." Margaret was furious. "How could Robert? How? After everything you and Mum did for him?" "Money," I sighed. "The house must be worth a lot now. The neighborhood has appreciated." Even so, selling his own father's house, forging documents. That night, I received so many calls that I had to unplug the phone. Distant relatives, acquaintances, even former customers from the woodshop who had seen the report on TV. All indignant, all supportive. The next day, the story was in the newspapers. Son tries to evict elderly father to sell house, was the headline. The video had surpassed 1 million views. Robert had become, as Mrs. Wilson put it, America's most hated monster son. The consequences for him were swift and severe. The construction company where he provided services as a contracted engineer terminated the contract, citing damage to the company's image. Clients cancelled projects, and as I found out later, Denise filed for divorce, horrified by what he had done and the public shame that fell upon the family. The legal process took its course. Robert was indicted for document forgery and attempted fraud. The house sale, of course, was nullified. The supposed buyer, upon learning of the situation, immediately withdrew from the deal. The judge ordered Robert to pay $50,000 in compensation for the moral damages caused. Money that, ironically, ended up being used to renovate my house, making it safer and more comfortable for my age. Margaret stayed with me for a month until she was sure I was okay. Then we worked out a system. She would come spend every weekend with me, and during the week Mrs. Wilson and Mr. Johnson kept an eye out, along with a caregiver who came 3 times a week for a few hours, paid for with part of the compensation money. Robert tried to call me several times in the following months. At first I didn't answer. The wound was still too raw. How do you forgive a son who tried to force you into a nursing home, who forged your signature, who treated a lifetime of sacrifices as if it were worth nothing? But over time, the anger gave way to a deep sadness, not for what I had lost, but for what he had become. Almost a year has passed since that Sunday that changed my life. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and for a brief moment think it was just a nightmare, but soon reality returns with that mixture of sadness and relief that has become my companion. Many people ask me if I've forgiven Robert. It's not an easy answer. As a father, you always want to believe the best about your children even when they disappoint you. It took months of reflection, sleepless nights, conversations with the pastor from my church, until I understood that forgiving doesn't mean erasing what happened. 3 months after the incident, I allowed Robert to visit me. It was a difficult meeting, loaded with emotions. He was different, thinner, hair beginning to show grey strands, deep dark circles under his eyes. The arrogance had given way to something I had never seen in him before. Shame. "Dad," he said, sitting on the edge of the sofa, as if he no longer felt entitled to take up space in my house. "I have no words to explain what I did." "Then don't explain," I replied. "Just tell me why." He sighed deeply. "It started with the idea that it would be better for you, I swear. I thought that in a retirement home with medical assistance you would be safer, but then the construction company was in trouble. I had made bad investments, needed money." "And you thought of the house?" "Yes." He lowered his head. "Denise was also pressuring me, saying the house was too big for you alone, that it was a waste." I remained silent, letting him speak. Sometimes silence says more than 1,000 words. "I started believing I was doing the right thing, that it was for your own good, but I convinced myself that I deserved that money. After all, I was your son, your heir. Why wait?" "Wait for what? Wait for me to die, you mean?" He looked ashamed. "I lost my bearings, Dad. I transformed into a person I don't even recognize. When I saw the video, when I saw you crying on the sidewalk and me saying those horrible things, I saw tears in his eyes. Genuine tears, not those crocodile tears people sometimes shed when caught doing something wrong. I've lost everything, Dad. My job, the respect of colleagues, Denise, even the kids are distant. Gabriel barely talks to me anymore. Julie cries when she sees me. I felt no joy in his suffering, as some might expect. I just felt a deep sadness for what could have been and wasn't. Robert, do you remember when you broke your arm at 9 years old, fell from the tree in the backyard?" He seemed surprised by the change of subject, but nodded. "I carried you in my arms to the hospital, 3 miles on foot because the car had broken down. It was raining, remember? I arrived soaking wet. You were crying in pain, and I kept saying, 'It's okay, son. Dad's here. Dad won't let anything bad happen to you.'" His tears flowed freely. A father carries his son in his arms when he can't walk. That's the natural law of things. But there comes a time when the son needs to carry the father, if only in his heart. You chose to throw me away like an old piece of furniture that no longer serves its purpose. Dad, I raised my hand, asking for silence. I'm not finished. You hurt me deeper than that broken arm. But just as I didn't abandon you on that rainy day, I won't abandon you now. But forgiveness, Robert, true forgiveness doesn't come free. It needs to be earned, day by day. He wiped his face with the back of his hand as he used to do as a boy. What can I do, Dad? How can I fix this? I don't know if you can fix it. Some things, when they break, never go back to the way they were, but you can rebuild. Start by treating others with the respect you didn't give me. Start by being the father your children deserve. Start by remembering that one day you too will grow old and will want to be treated with dignity. The conversation lasted hours. It didn't resolve everything. How could it? But it was a beginning. In the months that followed, Robert served his sentence, community service at the same Golden Sunset Acres where he had tried to put me. Ironic twist of fate. There he came to live with elderly people, hear their stories, understand their needs and fears. I think he learned more in those hours of service than in his entire adult life. As for me, my life changed in ways I didn't expect. The "old man evicted from home by son" video, as it became known, touched many people. I received invitations to give talks at schools, to speak about elder rights, about the importance of intergenerational respect. Mr. Davidson from the Elder Affairs Council became a friend. He introduced me to other elderly people who had gone through similar situations. We formed a support group that meets every Thursday at the council headquarters. The house, my old and dear house, also underwent changes. With the compensation money, I installed handrails, adapted the bathroom, put in non-slip floors. Margaret insisted, and I confess it has made my life much easier. She continues to come every weekend, sometimes bringing her boyfriend, a good man who works with her at the hospital. I think they'll get married soon. I told her that if they want, they can live here with me. The house is too big for an old man alone. She was touched by the invitation, said she'll think about it carefully. Robert? Well, he's trying. He comes to visit me once a month. The conversations are still sometimes tense, but we're relearning how to be father and son. He found a smaller job at a small construction company. He's paying the compensation in installments, as ordered by the judge. He also started therapy. Says he needs to understand why he did what he did, what kind of person he became. The grandchildren are another story. Gabriel at first was angry at his father and felt sorry for his grandfather, neither sentiment I wanted to inspire in him. Gradually, I showed him that life is more complex than heroes and villains. That his father made a serious mistake, yes, but that people can change, can repent. Julie, more sensitive, took longer to process everything. She would cry when she came to visit me. Now she can smile, ask me to tell stories about when her father was a child. As for the neighbors, what can I say? They became my extended family. Mrs. Wilson continues bringing her cakes and breads. Only now it's not out of pity for the old widower, but out of true friendship. Mr. Johnson and I have gotten into the habit of playing dominoes on Sunday afternoons. Laura, the retired lawyer, helps me with legal and administrative matters. We even set up a Facebook group, Mr. Miller's Guardians, where they coordinate who will visit me each day. The other day, Robert asked me if I still think about selling the house. I replied no, that this is my place, that I want to live my last years where I lived my best ones. But I also said that after I'm gone, the house will be his and Margaret's in equal parts, as was always my wish. What they'll do with it afterward is their decision. You know what I learned from all this? That aging in a world that idolizes youth is an act of resistance. That our dignity is not for sale at any price. That blood ties are important, but bonds of love and respect are fundamental. I also learned that sometimes the people who should protect us are the ones who hurt us the most, and that often the true family is the one we build throughout life, friends, neighbors, acquaintances who become essential. Today, at 76 years old, I look back and see a life of hard work, sacrifices, joys and sorrows. I also see that nothing is guaranteed in this life, not even the love of a child. But above all, I see that as long as we have a voice to tell our story, as long as we can stand, even if with the help of a cane, our dignity remains intact. Sometimes when I'm on the porch watching the sunset, I feel Ellie's presence beside me. I can almost hear her saying, "See, Richie, you've always been strong, always known how to weather the storm." And then I smile because I know she's right, because I know that even in the darkest hours, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. If you've made it this far, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know it's not easy listening to an old man's story. I know you young folks are in a hurry. You have your own lives, your own struggles. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like to support the work of Grandpa's Voice, which gives people like us a place to share our experiences. And if you really followed me to the end of this journey, comment the word dignity below. Only those who watched will understand the meaning. That's what remains from this entire story. Dignity has no price, no age, and cannot be taken from us if we don't allow it. I thank the Grandpa's Voice channel for this opportunity to share my story. Who knows, maybe the next one will be even more similar to yours or to that of someone you know and love. A warm hug from this old man who learned that it's never too late to start over, never too late to fight for what is rightfully ours: respect, love, and dignity.